There's a moment almost every woman over 60 knows. You're standing under bathroom light that feels a little too honest, parting your hair to check something, and there it is. More scalp than you remember, more space than there used to be. You tell yourself it's the lighting. Then you check again tomorrow, and the light hasn't changed. Here's what almost nobody says out loud: the reason your hair looks thinner isn't just your hair. It's that you're still using a playbook written for hair you had 30 years ago. And that playbook, the one you've trusted your whole life, is quietly working against you now. Once you understand why, everything about how you style, cut, color, and finish your hair can shift, not to chase the past, but to make the most of exactly what you have today. These are 4 specific shifts, and the last one is the one most women never hear at all, the one that changes the whole picture. Step 1. The cut that creates the illusion of density. Start with the haircut, because nothing you do afterward can undo a cut that's fighting you. Most women hold on to length as they age, and it makes sense. Long hair has always read as youthful, soft, feminine. But thinning hair behaves differently under length than it used to. Every extra inch adds weight, and weight is gravity's best friend. It pulls each strand straight down, flattens the crown, and drags the ends into thin, stringy points that show exactly how much air is between them. Long hair on a thinning head doesn't look youthful anymore, it looks tired. Here's the shift: a length that lands somewhere between your chin and your collarbone lets hair hold its own shape instead of surrendering to gravity. Picture the difference between a candle flame in still air, standing tall, versus one in a draft, bending flat. Shorter length is the still air. It gives each strand room to lift instead of collapse. But length alone isn't the full answer, it's what happens at the ends. Blunt, heavy ends concentrate whatever thinness is there into one visible line, like a fence with gaps you can count. Soft, textured ends scatter that same thinness across dozens of tiny irregular edges, so your eye reads movement and fullness instead of counting strands. A good stylist creates this with fine, feathered cutting at the perimeter, not thinning shears, which can actually strip density rather than distribute it. Ask for softness, not subtraction. Get the shape right, and everything you do next has something solid to build on. Which brings us to the layer people underestimate the most: color. Step 2. Color as shadow and light, not just shade. Color isn't decoration on top of your hair. Done well, it's engineering, the same trick painters and photographers use to make a flat surface look like it has depth. The mistake most women make after 50 is chasing contrast, going darker to look dramatic, or lighter to soften gray, without realizing that high contrast between your hair and your scalp is exactly what draws the eye toward thinning. If your hair is dramatically darker or lighter than your natural base, every gap in density becomes a spotlight instead of a shadow. The fix is staying close to your natural tone, then building dimension inside it, subtle lighter pieces woven through, so light catches some strands and passes through others. Think of sunlight moving through tree leaves. It's never one flat color, it's 100 small variations of light and shadow, and that variation is what reads as fullness to the human eye. Flat, solid color does the opposite, it reads as a single plane, and a single plane shows every irregularity in the surface underneath it. If you're working with gray, this matters even more. Solid coverage over gray often looks like a helmet, one uniform tone that has nowhere for light to move. Blending your gray with soft, low-contrast pieces around it, rather than erasing it completely, creates that same dimensional shimmer, and it grows out looking intentional instead of obvious. Your color sets the light. Your styling sets the shape. And this next step is where most women lose everything they just gained, without realizing it. Step 3. Lift, not volume. For years you've probably been told the goal is volume. Teasing at the roots, heavy mousse, back combing until your arm gets tired. It's time to let that idea go completely, because volume was never really the goal. Lift is. Volume implies bulk that thinning hair simply doesn't have to give. Chasing it with product and friction only stresses fragile strands and leaves you with something stiff and artificial looking by noon. Lift is different, it's about the angle hair leaves your scalp, not how much of it there is. 2 strands lifted at 45 degrees from the root will always look fuller than 20 strands lying flat, because your eye reads the space between hair and scalp, not the strand count. Here's how that lift actually happens. Dry your roots by lifting each section straight up and directing air underneath it, rather than blasting it downward and flattening it against your scalp before it's even styled. Then, and this is the part almost nobody does, let each section cool completely before you let it go. Hair sets its shape the moment it cools, the same way wax sets after it's been warm. Release it too soon, while it's still warm, and it falls right back to where it started. Hold it a few extra seconds, and it holds its lift for the rest of the day. Once you understand that lift, not bulk, is the real currency of fuller-looking hair, you'll never reach for a can of mousse the same way again. But even the best lift can be undone by the finishing steps, or protected by them. That's the 4th shift, and it's the one most stylists never mention. Step 4. The finishing move nobody talks about. Most women either overdo the finishing touches or skip them completely, and both mistakes come from the same misunderstanding, thinking product placement doesn't matter as long as the product goes somewhere on your hair. It matters enormously where. Spray hairspray evenly across your whole head, and you weigh down the very lift you just spent 10 minutes creating. It's like ironing a soufflé flat right after it rose. Instead, hold the bottle several inches from just the roots at your crown, where the lift lives, and let the rest of your hair move freely. You're locking in the structure, not sealing the whole head into stillness. Texture matters just as much as hold. Rather than spraying product directly onto your hair, which tends to clump in one spot and leave the rest untouched, warm it between your palms first, then scrunch it gently through the mid-lengths and ends. This distributes it the way morning dew settles on grass, evenly, invisibly, everywhere at once, instead of pooling in a single wet patch. But here's the insight that changes everything, the one piece almost no one mentions. The biggest enemy of fuller-looking hair isn't your roots, it's your own hands undoing the work you already did. Constant brushing, constant smoothing, constant fixing throughout the day flattens hair back down every single time you touch it, erasing the very lift and texture you built that morning. If your hair starts to droop by afternoon, the instinct is to brush it, but brushing collapses air pockets between strands, the exact air pockets that were making it look full in the first place. Instead, a light mist of texturizing spray followed by a gentle finger scrunch revives the shape without collapsing it. Your fingers, used sparingly, are more powerful styling tools after 60 than any brush in your bathroom drawer, because they lift instead of flatten. Put all 4 of these together: a cut built for lightness, color built for light and shadow, styling built for lift instead of bulk, and finishing that protects rather than undoes, and something remarkable happens. It's not that your hair becomes thick again. It's that it stops looking like something you're managing, and starts looking like something you're wearing, with the same ease as a woman who never gave it a second thought. That ease is really what this has been about all along. The women whose hair draws admiring glances at 60 and 70 aren't hiding anything. They've simply stopped fighting their hair and started working with exactly what it is right now. That shift, from concealment to confidence, shows up in the mirror faster than any product ever could. If this changed how you'll look at your own hair tomorrow morning, that's exactly the point. Subscribe if you'd like more of this practical, honest, unglamorous truth for women who are done apologizing for how their hair, or their age, looks. There are more of us than you think, and we're only getting better with time.